Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Here is today's Severe Weather Outlooks presentation. We still have some chances today and tomorrow. Then we take a real break from severe weather for several days, which is good news. Right here in the early part of May, it could easily be a lot different. I'm starting out today by showing you this map, and I just want to show you why the severe weather is easing a little bit, because overall, for the next 7 days, the 500 millibar flow will favor a very strong and cool trough of low pressure over the eastern two-thirds of the country, basically. And that is really going to suppress activity for several reasons. Most notably is because high pressure systems will be coming on down with cool, stable air on the back side of this trough, and it's just going to be very hard to get activity developed. If you take a look at the dew point anomaly, and I use this to kind of roughly correlate this with instability, because moisture is a big part of that. And look how dry it is across the nation's heartland, from Canada, Northern Plains, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, all the way down really almost to the Gulf Coast. So basically that means that we can't get moisture from the Gulf to flow back up into this area or even back up into this area. It's just going to be hard to do this week. So having said all that, though, there are some severe weather risks today and tomorrow, most notably. So here today, Tuesday, not to forget, there is a level 1 out of 5 risk up in New York State into parts of New England. This is the highest intensity here, though, in Arkansas, focused mostly. Zoom in on that a little bit, and you can see a little bit of a sliver of southern Missouri. Most of Arkansas, including Little Rock and Memphis and Jonesboro, Arkansas, are under this 2 out of 5 risk today. This actually does extend just barely down to Dallas and includes northeast Texas and southeast Oklahoma. And this is, of course, now when it says severe thunderstorm risk, a severe thunderstorm is defined as 1 inch in diameter hail or larger, 59 mile per hour wind gusts or higher, or a tornado. So all those are lumped into this outlook. Now we can break it down a little bit more and take a look at the tornado risk today. So it's at a 5% chance, stopping right at the Missouri-Arkansas border, going down into a slight sliver of southeast Oklahoma, and northern and central Arkansas very much covered. Little Rock, Memphis, same towns I mentioned before. Jonesboro, back to around Batesville, back to along I-40 there. Including some pretty good areas. Now, this is a little bit of a risky forecast today because there's a frontal boundary, there's a weak low pressure area. I can see how tornadoes would form today in this area. Certainly, I'll be chasing somewhat in this area, maybe down to here. Darkness is going to factor in. Anyway, here's the tornado intensity and geography. Here's the tornado intensities today. So they did rate it, so it's at the lowest of the 3 that they would even talk about. So again, intensity 1 just means that if a tornado were to occur in the striped area here, there's a heavy leaning, about an 80% chance that it would be an EF0 or 1, but not a 0 chance of stronger tornadoes, but it definitely weighs down toward the lower 2 and maybe the EF2 scale. On the hail side, we do have a 15% chance of severe hail, again 1 inch in diameter, and if it gets up to 2 inch in higher, there is in this striped area here, that could be a concern, which is just about coinciding with the highest probability of getting hail in the first place. Let's take a look at the CSU, Colorado State University severe thunderstorm probabilities. They put the tornado risk solidly in northern Arkansas, even into southern Missouri. I find that to be interesting. Again, this is based on past occurrences. In other words, it pattern matches what tornadoes occurred in the past where we had a pattern that looked like this, basically. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting kind of a conditional tornado threat, like it always is, of course. But today, it's not a real high risk, but it's interesting. I think a boundary or 2 might form there, and we could just get an interesting tornado out of that. The hail risk on the corridor from southern Missouri down into northeast Texas, and the wind risk about the same place. Those are both at a 15% probability. If we look at Nadocast for today, it does put a 5% risk just about in the same area that the SPC does, although some indications that, in this area north of that, maybe, it depends. See, there are some showers in northeast Arkansas and a couple of thunderstorms that have laid down a boundary, and where that ends up today, I think it's going to make a big difference on where we eventually place this tornado risk. I could see it going as far north as the Missouri-Arkansas border, or staying here, and this corridor would run from Little Rock to Memphis, and it might be after dark, like we're talking 9, 10 o'clock Anyway, let's switch to tomorrow. The whole thing sinks southward. We have a level 2 out of 5 on a broad area from eastern Texas all the way up to Alabama, including Birmingham, Jackson, Baton Rouge is not included in that area here, but Alexandria is. Tyler, Texas would be included in that as well. If we take a look at the tornado risk, it seems to be maximized at a 5% risk right here where you see the brown shading. That would include Jackson, Mississippi. In terms of intensity, again, they are saying that the lowest of the 3 they will talk about, so we went over that. And again, why don't those coincide? Because what they're saying is that this is the highest possible area, the brown, of any tornado. And they're saying, but if a tornado does occur, this is its intensity level. So in other words, if you combine those two together, that's the greatest risk. But what they're saying here, and this isn't a great example because it just extends barely beyond the shading of brown, but they're saying that it's a lower probability here, for instance, to get a tornado. But if one would occur, it would be at the same probable intensity level as anything that occurs back here, if that makes sense. Here is StormNet. This is a new AI machine. I haven't really evaluated it much yet, but it does show from the period 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. On Wednesday, a somewhat higher percent chance of any tornado occurring from right across southern Alabama, basically. And if we look at CSU's model, it puts the bullseye of 10% right over Jackson, Mississippi, and extends it about over the same area. It doesn't get too excited by hail or wind risk with this. And then technically we do have to talk about Thursday, where there's a 1 out of 5 risk from southern Alabama, southern Mississippi through the heart of southern Georgia and encompassing much of South Carolina. Again, I think that's kind of a leftover risk area. It seems like wind might be the main risk with a squall line that develops with that. There is this kind of broad brush tornado risk at the lowest percentage we usually talk about, which is 2%. Now, finally, we'll take a look at the NIU, Northern Illinois University supercell look. So if we have a supercell, we have a chance of any of the modes of severe weather: tornado, hail, wind, all at the category levels we've talked about. But it seems to be really emphasizing over the next week and really over the next 2 days, this area right here. Not much is all happening beyond that. Now, if we go to the period beyond that, the 12th through the 18th, front range activity and Florida activity seem to be highlighted. Again, indicative of the idea that there's stable air here, but maybe some moisture return through there. And then as we go to May 19th through the 25th, the whole thing shifts north. That's kind of crazy to see that. But Iowa up to Montana seems to have the highest supercell probabilities. Thanks for watching today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This is published every day after the morning Storm Prediction Center update. Also, remember to check that site off on day 1 because they update it fairly frequently. If you like this video, please like it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.